If you are just joining us, welcome. My name is Melissa Tosetti, and this is
I'm Kevin Gibbons.
and we are the owners of the Savvy Life. And what the Savvy Life is a day-to-day financial education company. In other words, we help people to find a balance between doing right by their future selves and being able to balance enjoying the things that they want to do today.
Yep.
And we started our show just a few minutes early so that folks can, log on, take their time joining in. And one of the things I keep thinking about, and I feel okay talking about this subject now because Thanksgiving is just a couple weeks away.
Okay. Yeah. Melissa is very big on every holiday has its time, and you don't rush things and you don't compact things. So we're now in the Thanksgiving season.
Yes. So now that we are in the Thanksgiving season, I was thinking, unfortunately, our Thanksgiving plans just got thrown off a bit. We were supposed to be going to my in-laws' house, and unfortunately, they're not feeling real well, so we're going to go ahead and hold off and see them around Christmas. So I had this moment of, okay, so what else can Thanksgiving be for us? And trust me, we'll have a good time. Don't feel sorry for us. But I was wondering for you, what have been some of your most fun experiences around Thanksgiving? And I'm totally putting you on the spot
That's
right
all right. It's really interesting because my mother's birthday was always around Thanksgiving. And so for her entire life, or as long as I've been alive in her life, we would go down and we would celebrate her birthday and we would celebrate Thanksgiving. And so for a long time, we did the usual thing where she did the cooking and she would invite her big tradition was she would invite the local priest over and then a couple of the other families. And so we'd have, a dozen, 15 people for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Very big
And not related to you.
Most of them, yeah.
Yeah.
But most of them were people that I had known my entire life.
Okay.
And then as she got older and her cooking quality went down, my sister and I took over the cooking.
Okay.
And that got a little bit stressful for my mom because she gave up. She kind of liked the idea about not having to cook, but she didn't like other people in her kitchen. And so that was really, so she was always trying to help. So that took a little bit. So to be honest, a lot of my favorite Thanksgiving memories were when I was put in charge of cooking, because I love cooking. And I would prepare Thanksgiving feasts for my family and the extended family and all that. Now, that was a lot of fun. My mom passed away last year, so now we don't have to go down to her place. And so my wife and I actually are going to have a pretty quiet Thanksgiving this time. We're inviting a couple of friends over, and it's just going to be the four of us, which will be a little bit interesting.
Yeah. Especially after how many years of driving down to Santa Barbara from Northern California?
I
30
did that. Yeah, easily.
years?
I did that my entire life because even when I was in school, the school would usually, when I was in college, the college would shut down. And it was my mom's birthday, and I was driving distance away from her house when I went to college. Long drive, but driving distance. So, I did that my entire life.
I've been thinking about you, and I've been thinking about that this year for you.
Yeah. So it'll be a little bit different, but looking forward to it. Like I say, it'll be a little smaller, but that's fine because that lets me be a little more creative with what I'm doing. I don't need to worry about cooking for again 15 people. So if you're only cooking for 4, you can start getting a little bit more fancy and do
a little bit more attention in your meals.
Yeah.
Or in your different dishes. I had a financial advisor that we work with, Brendan, sent me a hilarious quote that I posted immediately on our social media because you know what? You have to have a sense of humor. And the quote was something to the effect of, I'm going to save so much money on Christmas presents this year because I'm going to talk about politics at Thanksgiving. And of course, share.
That's an issue. Yeah. That was one thing that I enjoyed for a long time. My sister was married for many years to an absolutely wonderful man who had different political views than I. We loved each other. And for a few years, we would have very animated discussions about politics. And after a certain number of years, he just said, you know what? I don't want us, even though I know that we're not fighting, I don't want us to have this energy when we're supposed to be together and having fun. I love you, and I want it to be joyful. Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about politics anymore. You can if you want to, Kevin, but I'm not going to talk about it. And I poked a little bit and tried. Like he was serious. Okay, so we stopped doing that. And I have to admit that I felt a little bit of a loss because he was very passionate about his beliefs, very intelligent, very well spoken, and we had a lot of really great discussions. But it made him uncomfortable, so we stopped doing it. And unfortunately, he passed away also. But I really did enjoy those conversations. So I understand the whole thing of the issue of politics around the holidays. That can definitely be strenuous. Yeah.
I would rather stick a fork in my eye than talk about politics pretty much at any given time in any different social situations. So it's good. We have very different interests and stuff around that. So that being said, we are at the top of the hour. I want to reintroduce myself. So my name is Melissa Tosetti.
I'm Kevin Gibbons.
We are the founders of The Savvy Life, and what we want to talk with you today is about something that happens very often when we are making some changes around our habits, right? So we might at the start get really, really excited. It's kind of like a diet, if you will, diet mentality. Get really excited at the start, and you may hit your goals, but it's very easy once you're in that maintenance mode. Just isn't as sexy for us Americans as going after something and making changes, and we have this habit of boomeranging, and apparently I have not had enough coffee. I've had conversations with a couple of clients over the last couple of weeks talking about how we know we know how to do this. It's just a matter of sticking to it. And so we have been having a lot of conversations around that, which I thought we could talk about today.
Well, the interesting thing is that when you're doing something new and you're making a change, that's new and exciting. Once you've achieved the goal and now you're maintaining, maintenance boring.
Yeah, it can be.
It's just I'm not doing anything new. I'm not necessarily striving to do that extra thing, and all I'm trying to do is keep doing the same thing, and that requires a different set of motivations to be persistent in that, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so it's funny that you just said something that we didn't talk about earlier that I think is important to start with. Is it's something new, and we have that tendency as humans that's what we want. So I think that part of maintenance mode is figuring out how to keep things fresh, right? So it could be everything from, hey, you've got this goal that you want to cook 4 of your meals at home in the evenings a week, but you find that you're making the same thing every single day. So in order to keep that fresh, the whole idea is, hey, one time a week you're going to go after a new recipe. That's one right there. Another one is, I'm doing things here. Okay. Another area you can do is, again, you've got a certain amount of spending on clothes. Make sure that you're continuing to bring clothes in a little bit here, a little bit there, being very purposeful around it versus not doing any spend on your clothes. And all of a sudden you go to that day and you open up your closet and you're sick of everything. And then you lose your mind and you go shopping. So that's one that, just to go off the rails. Can you talk about the next one we have on our list about being careful who you hang out with?
Well, that's really a key idea. Is we are herd creatures, most of us.
And you keep doing that. I need to adjust one thing. Go ahead.
Okay, we are herd creatures, and so we are very much influenced by who we surround ourselves with whom we surround ourselves, and it's the idea that you should surround yourself with people that will support your goals and with people who you want to be like. That's really the best idea. So be careful of who you hang out with. If you are always hanging around with complainers, it is very hard to be cheerful and optimistic all the time. It's just it becomes incredibly easy to fall into that trap and start complaining as well. It's the whole idea of if you are going on a diet, if you are in a substance abuse type program, if you're an alcoholic, don't hang out with people who drink a lot. It's just hang out with people who have the similar approach and to you, that will support you and that you want to be like.
And I would say also people that have a similar drive. So some examples that I have from back in the day would be folks that, I overspent again, ha 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 ha, versus, and there's a tipping point with behavior, especially around spending, where you start to really recognize and start to realize, okay, I do want to make some changes, but to be comfortable with it, that's what a lot of people will do. Oh, it's just my personality, and that's not necessarily the person you want to go shopping with.
Or just, again, if everybody is like joke complaining about how much money they spent when they went out last weekend or something. It's like, oh, I didn't mean to, but I spent an extra $100 at the bar and dinner last night. So, oh, $100, that's nothing. I blew 200 at shopping, and you don't want to fall prey to that because again, you're trying to change your behavior. So it's, try to find people who have similar goals with where you're aiming.
And what we're not saying is ditch all your friends by any sense of the word. It's just that you might want to be aware of when they're triggering you to potentially feel that it's okay to not continue to stay on your goals, right? But also, one of the other things we want to talk about is looking for those mentors. So, we live in an Instagram world, and I was just reading a statistic somewhere. It was on environmentalism in the textile industry. And apparently there is a
simulation.
Apparently there's a big issue with people in Instagrammers who will go buy a dress, be photographed in that dress, and then go and return that dress. So it's maybe those aren't the Instagrammers that you want to be following. Maybe it's the folks that are always posting photos about all the cooking that they're doing at home, because that's one of the things that you want to do. So, or expanding the folks that you're paying attention to doing the same that you want to do.
So this really is an extension of the previous idea of being careful who you hang out with. Social media can be a large echo chamber. A lot of people have talked about this, and it's very comforting and very easy to surround yourself in the social media area with people who think and act the way that you do. If that really resonates with you, it's very comfortable. What we're saying is maybe stretch a little bit and go find people in the social media that think and act the way that you want to act.
That you want to,
And that will
use
help
that,
to turn your behavior around.
And that goes back to using that as stimulation for the new stuff, right? Constantly looking for new ideas, right?
Echo chamber is dangerous, exactly.
So the next thing we want to talk about along the same lines of this maintenance mode, right? You have created your spending plan. You're creating some new habits around spending. Another really phenomenal tool to help you stay on track is to find somebody to be accountable to. And every time I use the word accountable, I always feel like it's punishment. It's like somebody who's going to whip you if you don't do what you're supposed to do. And that's not the idea. In fact, if somebody's beating you up around it, depending on your personality, you might want to find somebody else.
But again, it's when you're changing your behavior, it's really easy to brag about your accomplishments. It's like, hey, I saved this money. I'm this much closer to my goal. Look, I'm doing really great. People will say, congratulations. When you're in a maintenance mode, the news isn't always as exciting. So if you can, so it's a little hard to brag. Be quite, put it simply.
But I track my spending.
But if you have a partner who's doing this with you or has some type of vested interest in your lifestyle change, it helps to keep you a little bit more accountable, a little bit more honest. It's just like, man, I really don't feel like doing that today, but I've got a call with, I'm going to be touching base with Melissa tomorrow. I don't want to be embarrassed and have to tell her that I didn't do this. And again, Melissa doesn't crack the whip, but you don't want to, if you say you're going to do something and you tell somebody, you don't want to have to go to that person and then say, oh, I didn't do it. Most of us want to honor our commitments, even if there's no real responsibility associated with it. You just do it out of a sense of responsibility and purpose. And again, being accountable and having that, voicing that, saying it out loud to somebody else makes a commitment stick.
So outside of the accountability that I have to Kevin as my business partner, to my husband, there are two other people in my life that hold me accountable to stuff. One is there's a gentleman, Jolie, lives in New Mexico. We met through this business coaching program 8 years ago. And for the last 8 years, every single Wednesday, just about every single Wednesday, he and I are on a call together, and it gives us a chance to, hey, check in, see how things are going, to like throw ideas past each other that is just a little bit outside of what maybe Kevin and I would do. And let me tell you, he cracks a whip. But I can honestly tell you that the Savvy Life would not be what it is if I did not have those meetings with him, especially back in the day, of just that, somebody who is expecting me to have executed something. And so that's helped tremendously. And then I've talked before, most of you know that my husband owns a mixed martial arts school. I work out there. Working out on my own.
Everybody goes through ups and downs.
Yeah. So for the last 2 years, I meet another coach, and she and I work together Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We work out together. And again, there are those days where I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do it, but she's expecting me there. And I always think that those are the days that count more, because you didn't want to do it, but you did it. Yeah. And I just like to think that you burn more calories that way.
So you bring up a really interesting point. When we're talking about buddies, there are many types, but let's just take a look at the two. There's the reporting in buddy, like you have with Joel, and then there's the buddy that you have with your coach.
You show up,
because that's a physical responsibility. It's a case of now it's like if I don't show up to this, she's working out, I'm letting her down. And that's a much more tight responsibility. So pick the one that works for you. That second one is really powerful. But it could be something as saying, if I have trouble getting in and out of the grocery store on my spending plan, and I inevitably blow my plan, maybe I'll see if I can figure out a way to actually physically go shopping with my buddy. And just so that we're doing this together and we're kind of keeping each other honest and just providing that emotional support to keep on track. As opposed to calling somebody up the next day and saying, oh, I blew it again. So do what you need to do.
So another way to stay really focused during maintenance mode is to make sure that you keep your goals in mind. And we've got a couple of specific topics around this bigger topic of having your goals in mind. I say this all the time. This is what I do for a living, but saving money or spending purposefully just for the sake of doing that is just not as motivating for me as it is if I'm saving for a specific purpose. And so it is very important to always remember, what are you doing it for? I would say in my work with clients, it's not necessarily, I'm doing this for retirement and I'm 30. It's not going to be as motivating.
That's a long view. That's great that you're doing that, but it is hard to stay motivated based on that. Right.
Unless you're in the FIRE movement, and then that's a whole other conversation. That being said, though, I can get super excited about a trip that's coming up, and that just reminds me, I want to make sure that I'm continuing to spend purposefully, because every $5, $10, $30 that I end up saving at the grocery store or wherever it might be, that's more money to go and just have fun with when we're on our next trip or whatever that goal.
I think that is really key, is that having that in front of you. And you had the good recommendation earlier, where you actually, when you were planning your family trip to Italy, you actually took a Post-it note, wrote Italy on it, and stuck it on your ATM card. So every time that she pulled out her card, she could stop and think, do I want to spend that, or do I want to save money for Italy? I mean, it's something very visual right in front of you, so that you're always reminded of what your goals are.
It's a gatekeeper. Is what it is. It just makes you ask yourself twice. Hello.
And you can
ask
always
yourself
open
twice.
the gate.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing. And also, by the way, you don't necessarily open up your wallet and pull out your card for your Amazon Prime purchases. So you need to have some kind of gatekeeper for those, because Amazon Prime, you could either spend on Amazon Prime or go to Italy. It can be challenging to be purposeful there.
So for people who are joining us, again, what we're really talking about here is that if you have change your habits to achieve your financial goals and be on the path, how do you maintain that? How do you keep staying in that and keep yourself motivated? And you talked about having the goals in front of you. I'll give a little bit of a flip on that, which is that even though you want to keep your goals in front of you, nobody can be goal-oriented 100% of the time. You need to have a little bit of a break. So make sure that you incorporate the fun stuff as part of your plan. And this is really, it's the idea of, what's the old expression? All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I think that's somebody.
Or homicidal.
Yeah, we're homicidal. Yeah, you need to be able to enjoy life, and so you need to allow to give yourself allowed, understandable breaks. That doesn't mean that you go on a spending binge once a month or whatever. But what it does mean is you set aside time and resources to say, okay, I am going to go have some fun. I have some permission to go spend my money to go do this, so that you resharpen your act. So that's something that is really big on in building habits and in executing, is making sure that you resharpen your axe or your saw. Take time off so that you can rejuvenate yourself.
Yeah, and when we're creating spending plans for clients, and especially clients that they're very goal oriented, a lot of times what they want to do is they want to just streamline everything.
Yeah.
So all their extra money is going towards paying off debt or building up their emergency fund or anything like that. And sometimes it's a challenge for us to try to talk to them and explain to them, if you don't set money aside to dine out, you're just going to have that day.
Yeah.
You're going to have that day where it was really rough at work and you're going to go to the mall or blow it on Amazon or go out some hyper extravagant dinner that completely throws everything off. Then you're going to get that mindset of, oh, I'm just bad at this. I can't stick to a budget. I'm going to go throw away everything. Most of the time when that happens, it's because, one, you haven't accounted for all of your expenses on your budget, or number two, you have just not given yourself that letting off steam. So creating the categories for that, the dining out, the going out and entertainment and having fun, and understanding that when you do go out and you're spending within that plan,
it's allowed.
That's a part of the plan. That's what actually makes it work. We are spending your money. We are telling you. Once you've created that plan, if there's money for dining out or clothes or whatever your fun stuff is, spend it, because if you don't, it is more dangerous in the long run. Yeah.
And related to that, so we talked about the idea of taking a break from your goals. Another tool that will help you stay on track in this maintenance type mode is the idea of having carrots. And what carrots are, yes, they're good food and they're healthy for you, but they're also the little nugget of pleasure out there that will give you a reward for making your goal. So it's kind of the idea of telling the young child, if you eat your vegetables, you can have ice cream. Well, it's kind of the same thing, is that if I stick to my plan and I put this money aside, at the end of the week, I get a nugget of something.
Right.
And it's just, it's a very tightly, a very tight loop feedback, a very tight feedback loop. If I do the good thing, I get some pleasurable reward, and it's just identifying what those are, just to keep you going.
Well, you had a great comment about that. It's you're nurturing your inner 6-year-old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We all have that inner 6-year-old that wants to know what's in it for me, and when do I get my puppy, and when do I get my ice cream, and
your marshmallow.
Or my marshmallow. Yeah. And it may take a little bit longer to get the puppy, but you can certainly schedule. If I do these things, I get my marshmallow. Yeah. And again, that's just the kind of thing. Giving yourself those little rewards just keeps you going from this week to the next week to the next week, and that's all it is. It's just how can I sustain this activity week after week after week, and at the end of the year, you've done this 52 times, and you've got this much closer to your goal, or you're this much further along in executing your spending plan.
Yeah, and then you're truly in habit, and that's just the way that you spend.
Yep.
I just had a thought. The thought went that way. Going back to the way habit. Oop, I think it's gone. Okay. All right.
Well, maybe it'll come back up in the second half, and we can add it in later.
I think it's now a good time for us to jump to our second topic
I think
of the
that
day.
we can go into our second topic. Yes.